Welcome to the Killshot MMA podcast from DFS Army. We got UFC Louisville on tap. Our main event is Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannoneer and Nassourdine Russian Sniper Imavov. We got 14 fights, going to break them all down for DraftKings. Maybe some betting advice mixed in there. I'm Sniper. No Monk this week, but the Geek is here. Geek, we got 14 fights and a good card to look forward to. Actually, a good GPP card is what I meant to say. The people of Louisville don't get a star-studded affair, but it's live fights. What are we thinking for this card? How do you think it sets up?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are some exciting fights. I think we'll see some big finishes. The name recognition here? Not at all. Not a lot of fighters who you're going to necessarily know who they are, but there are some exciting fighters. There are some exciting fights, and I see some definite angles that we can attack. I see some mispriced situations, even especially right here in the main event. Like, you have a serious, significant misprice on DraftKings relative to the current odds. I don't understand how they messed this one up, but they did.
Well, let's go ahead. That's a good segue. Let's dive right into it. It's the main event, Jared Cannoneer and Nassourdine Imavov. DraftKings salaries for, those listening. We got Imavov 8,600, Cannoneer at 7,600. The odds, though, damn near pick 'em. Imavov is minus 122. Cannoneer is plus 102. Interesting in that, it looks like from what I'm looking at,
I didn't even see line movement.
Yeah, the line's not. I was expecting a bunch of line movement here. I guess at one point Cannoneer was plus 120, but regardless, I think I agree with you. This is a misprice. I'll let you take it away, though.
Yeah, it's a weird one. 5-round main event. Love the 5-round fights. Interestingly, and you didn't mention this, but the inside the distance prop is low on this one. It's minus 130 to go to decision, which is kind of weird. But you know what? If Jared Cannoneer, he can turn up the volume at times, and I have a feeling we might see a little bit of that high volume, high scoring version that we kind of saw in his last fight. So we've got 5 rounds of action. Cannoneer, all of a sudden, against Marvin Vettori, out of nowhere, going for multiple takedowns as well. I just think Cannoneer is one of these guys that's improving all the time. I do not understand why he is the underdog in this fight at all. I think he should be favored. So I don't understand why he's 7,600. Maybe I'm misreading it, but this one is a really comfortable. I like the underdog. I like Cannoneer at 7,600. This is a guy who beat Marvin Vettori. He beat Sean Strickland. He is a solid pressure fighter. He will put the pressure on you, and you will break when you are across from him. But more exciting for me about Cannoneer is just that he's improving. Like, a lot of these guys, and Sniper, you know this, man, when they get to be a certain age, you just kind of trot out the same version of themselves all the time. Cannoneer is 40, and I feel like he's the guy who's improved every time we've seen him fight. It's bizarre. I get it. The age is a factor, but I'm taking Cannoneer here. I like the underdog play, even though, and I just think he's gotten better every time we've seen him. And it's bizarre because it's out of the norm for such an old fighter, but that's what I've seen. So I'm going to take my shots with Cannoneer, who is now also, he added grappling to his resume in his last fight.
Yeah, I'm also on the Cannoneer side. I'm not as strong of a take as you. I lean that way. I think he's a better striker. I think he's made improvements in his grappling and takedown defense. And this fight is, obviously, we get 5 rounds to work with. I think it's those odds becomes. I like the cash stack and then a super punt this week. We'll talk about the super punt later, and then you can fill in your favorite top level fighters. It becomes a very straightforward cash.
We didn't mention, by the way, I'm actually now going to bring this up, as we should have talked about at the top of not just the fact that a main event stack won last week, but that one of our guys took down the first place last week, Mathis, with that incredible Mayhem Mathis with his incredible stack. And I asked him, why'd you do that? And he goes, I don't know. I just felt it. I was feeling the stack. And really good play. Like last week when no underdogs hit.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks. So congrats to him. Join DFS Army. Get all the notes.
Yeah. Congrats to Mayhem Mathis on the 66K first place win.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Back to this fight. This is one that I would get both sides of. There are even though there's 14 fights, there's a few fights we can cross out, and we'll talk about them as we move along here. But Cannonier, he's so cheap over 5 rounds. I think a win gets him there. And if Imavov does win, I think it's because he's gotten takedowns against Cannonier, because Cannonier's improved in the grappling, but there's a hole there potentially. Imavov is good. I think Cannonier can stop it, and there's a big enough edge in the feet. But if I'm wrong, I think Imavov scores well in his win, in his passive victory in this particular fight. So I like both sides. I do also, though, lean towards the Cannonier side in terms of a straight-up pick. Now let's head on to what I believe is the worst co-main event I have ever fucking seen. I'm really struggling to think of a worse one here. We got Dominic, the Devastator Reyes taking on Dustin, the Hanyak, Jacobe. Reyes has lost 4 straight. Jacobe is 1-3 in his last 4. It is disturbing. Jacobe is 9,000. Reyes is 7,200. Jacobe's minus 225, as you might have expect. Reyes is plus 190. Fight ends inside the distance is minus 225. These are light heavyweights, and really it is kind of simple here in that I have to lean towards the Jacobe side because of the odds. And honestly, Dominic Reyes' chin just looks shot. He just looks done. He's been, knocked out by a power jab against Ryan Spann last time out. Prohaska got him with a vicious elbow. Blachowicz knocked him out. Jones decision. I mean, how many times are we going to talk about the John Jones fight? Dustin Jacobe is not, a high-level finisher, but he finished Kennedy Njoku. He finished Da Un Jung. He can get finished. I don't think of him as a type of, devastating power fighter. But against Reyes, I don't think it's going to take much. I think the odds are where they are for a reason. I promise I'm not going to say this the whole time. I really am. A lot of my GPP builds are actually geared towards the last 5 or 6 fights of the card. I think as the prelims go on, a lot of times I'm more interested in the prelims because high variance fighters, bigger scores. The top of this, it's just not the case this week. I'm more targeting the top of this card. So this is one to get both sides, because if Reyes' chin can hold up, just based on what we've seen him before, he can win the fight. He's live, and 7,200 is plenty big. I just don't think it happens. I do think this is one of the better fights to target, but I am on the Jacobe side. Geek, how about for you?
Yeah, I mean, the fight is minus 225 to end inside the distance. That's reasonable odds. I just want to bring it back to Dom Reyes and, what happened to him. I could excuse the losses to John Jones, of course, and to Jan Blachowicz, the champ, and Yuri, a champ. These are the best guys in the division. And okay, if you started losing, but the loss to Ryan Spann was really, really concerning for exactly the reason you said. Is he shot? Is he drinking? What is going on with this guy?
He's shot.
I have no idea. He's got to win.
The power jab is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Was he out partying? I don't know what's going on with Dom. The fall off, and maybe. And I have a theory. What if USADA has a lot to do with all of this? And now that it's gone, we bring it back to be.
Can't hurt. It's not the worst theory. We're going to talk about Ludovit Klein later on this card, who looks like a Greek god now.
He looks much better now, but seriously, what the hell happened to Dom Reyes? He was a guy who was fighting for championships, and now we've got him all the way down against Dustin Jacobe as a massive underdog against a guy in Dustin Jacobe who's never been anything but, a jobber in the UFC at best. So I don't really get it. Jacobe's fine, but again, he went to split decision draw against Jan Kutalaba. I want to that's the level that we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who didn't beat Jan Kutalaba in their fight. Just a mediocre guy. And he's going up against a guy in Reyes who had championship aspirations. So, and he's a massive favorite in this one. I don't really know what to do with it. If Reyes is shot, he's shot. Probably get knocked out quickly. Minus 225 inside. I do like taking shots here with the underdog and, saying, hey, it's been 2 full years since he was knocked out. I don't know why a 34-year-old man or 36 or he's 34 wouldn't recover. The shotness really wasn't getting finished anyway. He was really Reyes before that wasn't really just getting
the problem is
two times in a
he had
row.
Yuri Prohaska, and then he
Yeah.
took a year and a half off and got power jabbed. And now he's got
Hard to
another
tell.
year and a half off.
Yeah,
It's just concerning. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe the vitamins will help.
That's all. I don't know. That's really what it comes down to. Like, I think you need exposure to this fight because I don't have any way of knowing if a guy is still shot. Like, how would you know? If he's on something, gets better. I mean, I don't know. I don't like to assume when I see like the fast finishes, those 3 fights in a row, I like to think those are just variants that it can't, it doesn't mean he's a shot guy. It's just a little bit of variance. So I don't really know. But I would say that the version of Dom Reyes that was kind of like fighting back in the day, that was beating Jared Cannonier in round 1, that was, knocking out Chris Weidman early or going to decision with John Jones, that guy probably wins this fight pretty comfortably. I'm going to I'll take some shots on the dog here is what I'm saying. But you also need the favorite in case his chin is completely wiped, and it's minus 225 and 9K for Jacobe. And he does throw up some volume. They both are pretty good in terms of volume. And neither guy is going for a takedown. So, we're going to see what we're going to see. 2 men standing, throwing, and somebody going down probably.
Moving on, we got Raul El Nino Problema Rosas Jr. taking on Pretty Ricky Turcios. Rosas is minus 250. The comeback on Turcios is plus 200. DraftKings salary, Rosas is 9,300. Turcios is 6,900. Geek, I will let you go first because Raul Rosas Jr. is the kind of fighter you love for DraftKings. And me too, but you especially.
Raul Rosas only wants to do one thing, and we like that.
Score
He's
points.
A man with a purpose. He is here to take you down, grapple you, and try to submit you. He doesn't even bother throwing punches. Like he doesn't even bother. He's not out there pretending to be something that he's not. I kind of like it. I especially like it when, and listen, there are issues with Raul Rosas, but we'll get to that in a second. But I especially like it against a guy like Turcios, who's not that good at stopping the takedowns. Turcios' career 45% takedown defense, definitely can be grappled, definitely can be taken down, and it's unfortunate for him because that's what Rosas is going to try to do. Kevin Natividad got 7 takedowns against Turcios in their fight, and he was taken down 6 times by Brady Highstand in their fight. So opponents that wanted to grapple with him have been able to do so at will. I just think this is a fight that, the UFC, who do they want to win? They like Raul Rosas. They are promoting Raul Rosas. And I think this has all the makings of a fight that's kind of set up for Raul to win. He's young. He's getting better every time you see him. He's still absurdly young, 19 years old, Raul Rosas. But, a kid at that age is going to look a little bit better each time out. There's a little bit of fraud in him right now. I think if he goes up against a well-rounded opponent, he's losing that fight more often than not. But I'm not sure that Turcios is that guy. Turcios, I like him. He's super fun, but he's 31. The guy that we've seen is probably the guy that he is. And it's not a very good counter grappler. Let's put it that way. I think he'll be taken down and controlled by Rosas in this fight.
Yeah, without repeating too much of what you just said, I love Rosas in all formats. Turcios has got a 45% takedown defense. The UFC know how to build a star. This is the guy. Rosas in all formats. Very little of Turcios for me. We'll move on now to Bruno the Hulk Ferreira taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Ferreira is the minus 275 favorite. Stoltzfus is plus 215 on the comeback. DraftKings salary, Bruno Ferreira is 9,400. Stoltzfus is 6,800. There are some fights we're going to scratch out, but Rosas Jr. and Ferreira are the top 2 plays on the card outside of the main event. They're the 2 of the more expensive. We got a packed 9K range with 14 fights, but back-to-back fights. These are the 2. These are my favorite 2 pay-ups, bar none. Rosas and Ferreira. Stoltzfus is just not good. This fight is minus 145. to end in under 1.5 rounds. When Ferreira wins, he finishes people. I want very limited exposure to Stoltzfus. I think this is another case, the UFC building a star, Ferreira with massive upside. I will tell you, I do think you can't fit in both these guys in cash. I don't think I was playing with builds. Rosas would be the cash play, Ferreira more for GPPs. And if you made me pick one guy to play in GPPs of the dogs, maybe I'll put in under 5% of Stoltzfus just in case. But I think I'm pushing it there. I like Ferreira a bunch in this fight. It's just a case of he's better. Every tape, the tape I watch, he's just better. He's aggressive. Is he perfect? No, clearly not, because he's got the loss to Nursultan Ruzaboyev. But Ruzaboyev and Stoltzfus are different planets. So give me Ferreira.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add there. For this fight is minus 350 to end inside the distance. That's huge. We've seen Stoltzfus get knocked out. He's just nothing special as a fighter. The biggest issue with Stoltzfus is I don't think he's going to have for him to have any success here, he's going to have to get takedowns. Like, I don't think in the striking it's going to go well for him. Ferreira is a much higher volume striker. He brings a lot more power. Just he's a superior striker in almost every way. So in order for Stoltzfus to really get a shot in this one, he's going to have to get takedowns. Can he do it? Maybe. But I have a feeling Ferreira is going to get back up. So Ferreira's got career, I think, 66% takedown defense. It's okay. But if you actually look at his record, he really hasn't been taken down but more than once in any particular fight. And he was only taken down once by Ruzaboyev. So effectively, you can almost throw away that takedown defense number. It's just there's not enough of a sample size to really know. And no one's really tried very hard to take him down. But I just think Stoltzfus is going to get knocked out before he even has a shot at it. So I agree with you. This is a massive inside the distance prop. Should be a pretty comfortable win and somebody that you want to play in your DraftKings lineup. Ferreira, 9,400, a little spendy. So we'll see, but he's somebody that you'd want to build around on this card.
Compared to the other 9K fighters we're going to talk about, trust me, and we'll talk about them. Him and Rosas Jr. are it for me. And
you can't ignore Jacobe.
Right. I said and Jacobe in there, and that's why I said you had the main event, Jacobe, these last two fights, and I said the whole card was top heavy. We're not done yet, because the next fight I think is my favorite on the entire card to target. And it's because we got Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez, taking on Zack Reese. Marquez is a minus 115 small favorite. Pick'em. Zack Reese is minus 105. Did want to pull up the inside the distance prop for this card.
It's massive.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's even more unlikely to end in under 1.5 rounds than the last fight. This is minus 155 under 1.5 rounds, minus 600 inside the distance. And basically you got a guy in Julian Marquez who, when he fights, they're fun fights. Wars against Marc-Andre Barrio, wars against Gregory Rodriguez, finish Sam Alvey. I get it, it's Sam Alvey, but these last two fights were fun, and I feel like they're giving him a guy that he can beat who's also fun. Zack Reese got finished by Cody Brundage. Zack Reese is going to throw down. So will Marquez. Marquez is just better. By the way, the salaries, Marquez is 8,300. Zack Reese is 7,900. Those two fights at salaries at minus 600 inside the distance, just pretty much all the fuck in on GPPs. And on top of that, now I have a heavy lean towards Marquez for the pick too. Well, shit, that made Marquez a core play, and it became pretty much that simple right there. I'm on Marquez. I think he's better, and he's got a willing dance partner. Geek.
I think you could bet Marquez as well at minus 129.
Already did.
I love this spot. To be very clear, Zack Reese to me has no business being in the UFC. This is not a UFC level fighter at all. He's proven nothing. He's shown nothing that says you belong here. He does not have a win that's even, I would call it, reasonable in his entire career, and he's only 6-1. Very, very young in his career. I don't understand how he's in the UFC. It's bizarre. This is a Marquez spot all day. Marquez doesn't necessarily have like very good wins, but he stood in there with some tough guys. He's got a win against Phil Hawes, which, looks okay years and years ago, but he's looked pretty decent even in fights that he hasn't won. He's looked like low-level UFC, where Reese looks like doesn't belong here. Then you add in the minus 600 inside the distance prop. You add in the fact that his opponent, Zack Reese, was knocked the fuck out by Cody Brundage. Are you shitting me? Cody Brundage.
It's not a good look.
That is a brutal look. So this is a lock button fight. The price, the salaries for these fighters is super low. 8,300 for Marquez. This is what opens up everything for you. Lock button. This fight, probably 90, 85% Marquez. All my handcrafts will have Marquez in it. And I'll, of course, force a little bit of the turd underdog because of the odds. And
Force
for
the turd. It's my favorite expression.
Because of the head, I got to hedge it. I got to force a little bit of him when I run like 150. But for the most part, Marquez seems like one of the best plays on. Neither guy, by the way, has any interest in going for a takedown. This is going to be extreme striking. Just two guys standing there throwing fists. As far as statistically, I'm not sure this matters that much, but Marquez is a little bit higher volume, averaging just under 5 strikes per minute in his UFC career compared to Zack Reese, under 4 in the 2 fights that he's fought. There's been no grappling whatsoever with either of these guys. So it's pretty much stand and bang. And I think this is the spot for Marquez.
Yep. Totally agree. All right,
minus 600 inside the distance is crazy. For this price?
Yeah, it's something. All right, let's move on. Got another decent one here in Punahele Soriano taking on Miguel Baeza. I actually don't like this fight for a reason. I'm having a hard time getting a read on this one for the reason I'll mention after I do the intro here. Soriano's plus 140. He's a small dog taking on Miguel Baeza, who is minus 170. Line inside the distance prop on this fight, we got minus 280. So another one expected to see a finish here. Salaries in this one, Baeza is 8,700. Soriano is 7,500. Both the guys got off to a decent start in their UFC careers, and now, as you can see, Baeza's lost 3 straight, but hasn't fought in 2 years. And he was losing to, Fialho, Chaos Williams, Ponzinibbio. Not bad guys. Whereas Soriano's losing to the likes of Stoltzfus, and Kopylov looked good last time out. Lost to Nick Maximoff, which is a real problem for me. It's one of those, okay, who's actually the legit prospect? And when I watch tape, I think Baeza is better. I think he's just a better fighter. Stiffer competition that he struggled against. I don't like this layoff. I don't like, that I believe we got Soriano coming down in weight for this one. Need to confirm that here in a second. It's a strange fight, and the odds kind of inside the distance. The odds dictate I need to play at least a little bit of both sides. But I will tell you, I'm on the Baeza side. I think he's more technical. I think he's more likely to mix in the grappling if he needs it, especially Soriano lost to a guy like Nick Maximoff. I think Baeza can handle himself here, but Soriano is one of those dogs, and I'm gonna stop saying it because we're almost through the top half of this card, just like I alluded to earlier. But it's another one to get a little bit of both sides too. You can't obviously play everybody in a 14 fight card. So I'm probably going to end up with less Baeza than I want to, because I got guys like Dustin, Jacobe in this price range I got to afford. Imavov. Eduardo Mora is, I think what a lot of people are going to struggle with is you have in this range Jacobe, Lapalus, Mora. Lapalus sucks. We'll talk about that more later. People are going to want to play Imavov, and I don't think anyone's going to want to play Eduardo Mora, and I'm going to make a case for her later. I think people are going to get stuck between Mora and Baeza, and I think Mora is safer than Baeza and has some sneaky upside in there. So we'll talk about that later. Decent fight to target. I am on the Baeza side for a straight up pick though. Geek, how about for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said, both of these guys kind of like Punahele Soriano. I remember, he was kind of like an exciting prospect for a minute. Similar with Baeza, and they've both kind of fallen off. Although, Punahele's losses have been more egregiously bad.
Yeah.
Right. He just, right. Where Baeza kind of lost to guys where he might have been favored in those fights, or if he was just probably a mild favorite in some of those fights. We're talking about, against real opponents, against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's good, I would say. Chaos Williams, who can throw hard, and Fialho, who also knocks people out. So at least the losses for Baeza kind of came against a little bit more legitimate competition. With all that being said, I think he's the rightful favorite. there's he's a significant favorite to pay up for in this fight. The only thing that has me thinking is maybe Soriano was just kind of fighting in the wrong weight class at 185 the whole time, coming down to 170. Maybe could that help him? Maybe he was like, I'm trying to look at his sizing to see if there's anything about him that said, maybe he was just being,
he was a 5'11", 185er.
Yeah, it's a little small for 185. So maybe that will help him. And that's the only angle I could really say for Soriano, because beyond that, I've seen nothing that makes me want to put any money on him or anything like that. So with that being said, again, another fight with no grappling whatsoever or very little. Baeza cannot be taken down. He's got 100% takedown defense anyway. Soriano can be taken down, and that's the other reason why I think Baeza probably wins this, because if he needs to, he could go for a takedown, and he probably will get it by Soriano's horrific 33% takedown defense. It's disgusting. So I think it's pretty much a no-brainer on the Baeza side. I think that's the play. As far as can he get a score big enough to pay off that $8,700 salary, I think he'll be low owned, and it might be an interesting GPP alternative to some of the names that we mentioned, especially if we don't love enough underdogs on this card to sort of make salaries work, a la last week, where pretty much most of the dogs didn't really work out very well.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk Thiago Moises taking on Mr. Highlight Ludovit Klein. DraftKings salaries for this one. This is Ludovit Klein is 8,400. Thiago Moises is 7,800. Klein's the minus 135 small favorite. And we got a fight ends inside the distance prop here, minus 125. So pretty much a pick 'em. Diego, go to you first for this one. I got to take a victory lap because I told you and Monk he's going to knock out AJ Cunningham fucking fast at that salary.
That was fast.
Ludovit Klein on steroids is a different fucking animal. He is juiced out of his mind. We got Thiago Moises, who I think has fallen off a little bit. So what do you have for this one?
Yeah, I think my prime concern, I like Klein again, primarily because the best thing that Thiago Moises does is grapple, in my opinion, where his best skill set is his BJJ. He doesn't use it as much as I'd like to see, but it is his best skill set. And it's just hard to take Ludovit Klein down. He's not easy to take down. He's got 83% career takedown defense. That is over a large sample size. So, for the most part, he's pretty good at keeping it standing or getting his own takedown. I don't think he'll use that here. I don't think he'll want to take down Moises. I don't see any reason why he'd want to do that. And on the feet, Klein is slightly better. He throws out more volume. He's got more power. He's just slightly better. I like the southpaw as well. It always messes people up. So I think Ludovit Klein's a pretty good play. But my concern with this fight is more on I don't know that it's going to score that great.
Yeah, still my thunder.
Yeah, it's kind of pointing at a decision. It's 50-50 to go to decision. Klein, roided up Klein does have some awesome power. He's a crazy man in there, and so it could get done. But for the most part, there's if Moises isn't getting takedowns, he does not throw a ton of volume. So to me, this fight has a little bit of low score danger to it. Doesn't excite me too much. I am picking Klein to get this W. And I actually think he's bettable in this spot as well at minus 122. So that is a bet spot for me as well, like with the Marquez. I think it's a bettable spot. But as far as DraftKings scoring goes, I'm skeptical that Klein can strike his way to a high enough scoring decision to pay off the salary. So you need to get a finish in there. I'm not sure I see that coming. Moises is a pretty tough opponent, and he'll threaten with takedowns to the point where that might keep some of Klein's aggression minimized just a smidge, just enough maybe to kind of survive for 3 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. You pretty much broke it down exactly how I was going to, in that as much as I love Ludovit Klein and the AJ Cunningham call, it's still victory lap. Thiago Moises ain't AJ Cunningham. 50-50, 83% takedown defense for Ludovit Klein. I think he stops takedowns. And wins it on the feet, and probably doesn't finish and probably doesn't score great. And there's 14 fights. And we have a bunch of fights I think that are better to target. So I'm also on Klein. Betting wise, yeah, you probably could bet it. I'm trying to get my head around minus 135 in terms of percentages.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. I like the Marquez play more, but this is doable.
I think it's a bettable spot.
Yep.
It's pretty close to 50-50 odds. I'm going to be betting both of those.
Got it. But DFS wise, this is not on very high on my list of fights to target. And if you do, it's definitely a GPP play. It's not a cash spot here. All right, let's move on to Charles Chuck Buffalo Radtke taking on Carlos the Nightmare Prates. Prates the favorite at minus 200. Come back on Radtke at plus 165. Fight ends inside the distance is minus 180. So you get a decent one to target here. And in terms of DraftKings salary, Prates is 9,200. Radtke is 7,000. It's weird. This is a weird one in that I think the line is too wide, but I would probably pick Prates. I think Prates is a little better. They both have a lot to prove to me. It's one of those, you got a decent into the distance prop at minus 260. While I picked Prates ever so slightly, I think 7,000 for Radtke and the odds value and the GPP upside, I think Radtke makes for the better DraftKings play because of the salary. Prates, yeah, the inside the distance numbers throw me off. So I am struggling with this fight because all the numbers are telling me Prates is a decent GPP play, and I just don't quite see it. And Radtke's not good, but neither's Prates. So it's kind of this is that weird in between fight for me. I'm going to pick Prates, but tell you if I had a single entry lineup, I would play Radtke. And that's where I stand in this fight. And for GPPs, this is one I'll probably vanilla up and just field weight. And if the ownerships tell me Radtke's getting no love, I might bump Radtke up a little bit because he's live. It's going to be more of an ownership play come Friday, Saturday when I'm building. How about for you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, with Prates, don't be fooled by the 18-6 record to think this guy loses all the time. He's been fighting. He's 30 years old. He's been fighting since he was 17 professionally. And most of those losses came back in 2012, 2013, and kind of through 2017. So like he was still just a kid, right? He was the early 20s. And a lot of the fights, literally the losses were 2013, 2014, a long time ago for a 30-year-old guy. So he's looked really, really good lately. A lot of finishes, a lot of early finishes. So I don't think he can be ignored is where I'm going with it. Normally at 9,200, we've already identified 2 or 3 other fighters that are really, really sexy at that price point. More sexy than this guy. But for tournament reasons, I like that. I mean, he'll be lower owned probably than a lot of the names we mentioned earlier that are pay-up options. So I think that Prates makes for an interesting tournament pay-up option, not somebody a lot of people are going to pay up for. And I agree with you. I think the flip side here is we don't really know how good or bad Radtke is. He's looked very good lately. Haven't really seen a step up in competition level from him to kind of get a sense of where he's at right now. What I can say is once again, at least in recent history, neither guy is going to be super interested in any sort of grappling here. So it's once again another fight where we should see a striking battle. Just 2 men enter, throw fist. Somebody may go down, somebody may not. So the pay-up option on Prates, again, there's none of that grappling, none of that Charles Rosas Jr. stuff that's going to score really well as long as he wins. We don't know. This could go a lot of different ways. And of course, I think Radtke is a reasonable underdog to take a shot on. He's fought complete garbage in the UFC. Complete garbage. Blood Diamond. I don't like, Gilbert.
Blood Diamond.
I mean, Blood Diamond and Gilbert. So he has UFC wins that are terrible, but he won them. So I don't have any evidence of, until I see him take a loss, we can't really level out his stuff. So these guys are both prospects. And when it comes to 2 prospects, you cannot just overly support the favorite here. I think you've got to give Radtke a shot, but I do think Prates does win this fight more often than not. Can he do it fast enough to pay off 9,200 on DraftKings? Maybe. I'll probably be over the field on him just because I expect him to be super low owned. And just for that reason alone, you just got to take your shots in DFS, regardless of what you think. So, I'll probably take some shots on Prates at 9,200 just because of game theory purposes. But the fight doesn't necessarily jump off the page, and I definitely think the underdog is viable.
Yep. All right, let's move on to spot we got to talk about here. Brad Superman Katona, the largest favorite on the card, taking is minus 500. Take it on Jesse. I was knocked out in 20 seconds by Jim Miller. Butler at plus 380. DraftKings salary. Like I said, Katona's the most expensive on the card, 9,600. Jesse Butler is 6,600. Despite the fact we all just saw Jim Miller get starched in 20 seconds by Jim Miller, this fight is minus by Butler. Butler got starched. Minus 210 to go to decision. So this is the cash punt I like that I was alluding to earlier. I get somebody at 6,600, minus 210 to go all 3 rounds against Brad Katona, who notoriously fights close, like cannot distance himself. Lost to Garrett Armfield last time out. Decision win over Cody Gibson. Decision win, split decision win in Brave over Hamza Kuhei. Like, I know Butler's not good, but 2 things. I'm not investing in Brad Katona at 9,600. If he beats me, he beats me. So be it. And I'll take some shots on Jesse Butler in all formats because I take that price and odds. Sure. And
I almost feel like DraftKings punted away whoever sets up salaries for this card and was just like, meh.
No, this always happens when there's 14 fights because they refuse to price people at the same price point and they do $100 step downs. When you get 14 fights on a card, someone has to be 6,600. And then there's not a minus 1,000 favorite on the card. Like minus 500 plus 380 is big, but we routinely see bigger than this every week. There's usually 1 or 2 squashes. We don't have that this week, and there's more fights. So Jesse Butler just kind of falls this low. It's weird.
It's interesting. Yeah, I guess it's because he's Katona's minus 600 here. I think Katona gets this win. Sure, Butler did not look good at all. He doesn't look like a good fighter. I don't know that I need a $6,600 fighter in my cash ticket. But you know what? If it goes to decision and you get 3 rounds, and again, Katona's not some grappler. He will get a takedown here or there, but for the most part, he wants to stand and throw. So you probably will get, if the odds makers are correct here, you'll get 3 rounds of striking at a Butler and probably 35 points in a loss. Not bad for your cash lineup. So I'm fine with that. I don't see myself playing any Brad Katona on this card. He not only needs to destroy Butler in the first round or so, he needs to outscore pretty much every other 9K fighter on this card. So it's a very, very big hurdle for him to cover all of those points. He can't just win. He can't just win early. He has to win really early and beat all these other fighters that also look really, really good in the payups area. So while Katona is perfectly acceptable, if you we just want to win, he's probably going to win this fight. But as far as scoring well, he doesn't have really any history of scoring well on DraftKings, and this fight doesn't really scream this is that time when it's going to happen. All right, let's see, his best ever, he has a 97 and a 93. And understand, if he gets a 93, your card is dead. If he gets a 97, you are finished at night. If you pay 9,600 and you don't cross 115, you're finished. And he has never even sniffed 100 plus. So for that reason alone, and he's fought worse guys or pretty bad guys in his career. So, and actually lost to some of them, which is even crazier. So, no Katona for me.
Agreed. Just now I get to get real frustrated. Andrea KGB Lee. She's a minus 125 favorite against Montana De La Rosa, who's plus 105. Lee's lost 4 straight. De La Rosa's lost 3 straight. DraftKings salaries here. Andrea Lee is 8,500. De La Rosa is 7,700. Fight goes to decision is minus 325. And I'm real frustrated because Montana De La Rosa, top 3 worst game plans I've ever seen in my fucking life last time out against JJ Aldrich. She's shot 1 takedown against a boxer, and she's a BJJ specialist. I can't trust her because it's the same spot here. She should be able to get takedowns and use her BJJ and win a fight. And I just watched her not do it for 3 rounds. I'm going to pick her because tactically that's what I think should happen. And she's $800 cheaper, and this fight sucks overall. But I have no faith in this fight because De La Rosa should win. But after what I saw last time out, who the fuck knows? It's wild.
I actually know.
Please share.
The actually correct winner here is Andrea Lee. And you said something earlier, and I'm going to correct it. You said Andrea Lee had lost 4 in a row.
No,
but in reality, she was robbed of multiple wins along the way. She beat Macy Barber, in my opinion. She beat Miranda Maverick, in my opinion. And she was pretty damn close against Viviana Raul as well. My girl, KGB, got a bad reputation. Judges don't like her. They don't want to give her the fight win. No one likes the boyfriend. Seems like a douche, right? Everybody knows about it.
When you're a Nazi sympathizer.
Seems like a douche, right? Not the best kind of people. So I think KGB Lee has also been losing to really good opponents that she kind of has won. I mean, they're really close fights. They're split decisions. Again, in my opinion, she won a bunch of those fights. So I like Andrea Lee. I don't think Montana De La Rosa has anything for her. I think Andrea Lee.
You think she's okay at 8,500 though? You think she's going to pay off?
Yeah, I think I don't know, but I think she's playable at 8,500. Will she pay off? I don't know, but I think she could get takedowns in this fight. Like, don't count out KGB.
And get a takedown or 2. De La Rosa stuck on bottom. Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, I don't think De La Rosa is such a great. De La Rosa's got that grappling that works against female fighters who don't grapple, and she could just overwhelm them because they haven't been trained very much. But I haven't seen where Montana De La Rosa is this. She's no Tatiana Suarez. Okay, let's not go crazy. Let's not get out of control here. I think KGB Lee's grappling might be better than hers. So I'm not 100% convinced, like I said, that she is even better at that one thing that she, and I definitely think Lee is a better boxer and a better standing striker. She throws way more volume, averaging almost 5 strikes per minute versus Montana only under 3 strikes per minute. This one to me, I think I think this is another bet spot. I don't like laying more than it's at
I disagree on this bet spot. I would not bet this.
I think it's bettable. I think Lee is better she's a better striker, and I think it's questionable which one is the better grappler. And so even on grappling plus striking minus 150, a little bit. I wish it was pick 'em or something like that. I like to lay the chalk, but I kind of think Lee is the only thing going against Lee is the judges hate her, and I'm a little scared about going to another decision with her. But yeah, I think Lee is the rightful. I think she's she's consistently been underrated, and now as a favorite, she's probably not favored as much as she should be.
All right, let's go from that fight that I dislike to one I really do like in Daniel Marcos and John Castaneda. This fight, these are 2 quality guys. I wish this was higher up on the card. Marcos 15-0, undefeated. The no contest last time out against Richie Lang. It's minus 110 to pick him against John Castaneda. DraftKings salary for this is the pick'em fight, 8,200 for Castaneda, 8,000 for Marcos. While I really like this fight, the fight goes to decision is minus 220. So what I say should clarify what I mean when I say I like the fight. From a fight fan perspective, a guy who watches fights every single week, I'm interested in this fight. It's a good prospect type of fight. For DFS, the only interest is that Marcos is cheaper, and I think he wins. I do think he's better. And the salaries are 8,000 the mid-range. So you don't need a massive score all the time in the mid-range. The problem is there's 14 fights. You probably need 6 big scores. So I'll be under to this fight overall, but I like it from a fight fan perspective. And skill for skill, I like Marcos. I think he can deal with the pressure. I think he uses range well. I think he's all around just a little bit better, but a really fun fight in terms of fight fan perspective, but not one for DFS. Geek.
Yeah, totally agree with your breakdown. I kind of think at this price level with these two, the important thing is this: we shouldn't see a ton of grappling in this matchup. Sexy Mexi will go for a takedown, but Marcos has really, really elite takedown defense on 90% on his career. Marcos throws more volume on the striking side, so you kind of got a little bit more grappling from Castaneda, and a little bit maybe more volume out of Daniel Marcos from on the striking side. But you said it, with no real grappling upside, it's hard to justify a fight at 135ers who don't do enough volume to cross 100 points, where it's minus 220 to go to the distance. So outside of like some tournament low owned, I don't think this will be a high owned fight at all. I think it's going to be an ignored fight. Both guys will probably be in that 10%, 12% ownership range. If I had to pick a favorite that I'm preferring here, I prefer Marcos to get this decision. As far as the scoring, I'm not sure that he's going to do enough to matter on DraftKings this week. And he's not at a salary that really I need to force in for the most part.
All right, let's go to a fight that I'm wondering where the ownership is going to come in for this one. So we got Eduardo Mora at minus 175, taking on Denise Gomes at plus 145. We got Mora. This fight, by the way, is minus 125 to go to decision. So 50-50 for a women's fight is interesting, first of all. Then you got the salaries here. Mora is a little bit pricey in that Mora is, to find it, 8,800. Come back on Gomes is 7,400.
Yeah.
But everyone loves Denise Gomes and was starkly reminded last time out, she can't stop a takedown. She can't do it. Angela Hill took her down a bunch of times. And then Eduardo Mora goes for takedowns, ground and pound. I know, beat Montserrat Ruiz last time out. I'm not telling you she's a world beater. I'm saying I think this is a terrible stylistic matchup for Denise Gomes. And this fight was 6 months ago. I don't think she's made significant improvements to stop the takedowns. And that salary is elevated. And I don't think anybody's going to want to play Eduardo Mora. And we saw, what was the fight last week where somebody just laid on someone else for 14 minutes and scored 103? Like there was some big score.
Eileen did that.
Eileen. And Kopylov became a grappler last week, which did hurt a little bit.
That hurt my whole life.
But same thing. He got takedowns and scored over 100 in a fight he wasn't dominant in. That matters. If Mora wins here, I think she scores really well, and I don't think anyone's going to play her. I want to see what the ownership says. I like Mora as a really sneaky, high-end GPP play for me.
Yeah, I mean, neither. Let's just be clear. Neither one of these ladies has like a signature win against a name brand opponent. Neither one of them.
Low level fight. Low
level women's MMA. We have one that is an aggressive grappler and one that is not very good at stopping that approach. And I think that really boils it down very simply. Eduarda averaging over 5 takedowns per 15 minutes over her 2 fights. Now, again, against very scrubby opponents, but nonetheless, she's getting it done. Let's see. She got 3 takedowns against Montserrat on her way to a second round win. And, she just destroyed her initial opponent, some random Silva person that we'll never hear from again.
Silver, I believe, right?
But Janiana, whatever. We'll never hear from her again. So if she can get that going, and if she can get that going here against Denise, great. She should score really well. I don't like the salary. She's minus 155 at 8,800. That is a little bit extreme. I think a little bit of reading, maybe they were just looking at what she scored in those other wins. She's averaging 127.5 fantasy points per win. It's only counting the one win against Montserrat, though, and she scored 128. So she scores well. If you're going to do that style and it's working, you're going to score well. And that really is something that cannot be ignored. You cannot ignore someone who is exclusively going for takedowns when they're facing an opponent who can't stop a takedown. It's like Raul Rosas for cheaper, basically, and less skilled. And so, yeah, I'm going to play some Eduarda. I'm even going to play some Denise because you know what? She's got a little bit of power in her hands as well, and she can get a knockout. But I think Eduarda has a legitimate path to a decision win where she scores really, really well if she's continuing to use her takedowns as aggressively as she has been. So I don't think you should ignore her. I think you're right. You hinted at this earlier in the breakdown. Mora is very much in play as a pay-up option.
All right, let's move on to someone who's not in play in my mind as a pay-up option. And that's Taylor Lapilus. He is minus 210. Taking on Cody Stamann, who's plus 175. Stamann's been around a hot minute, but he's 21-6 as a pro. Lapilus 8,900. Stamann is 7,300. This fight goes to decision, is lined at minus 325 to see all 3 rounds. Geek, you can take this one.
Do you feel that this is kind of disrespectful? The
Absolutely.
line in general, like
absolutely. I picked Stamann straight up. I didn't make a big bet on this, but I bet half a unit on Cody Stamann.
Yeah, it's a little disrespectful. Lapilus is fine. He's got pretty good takedown defense. But Stamann is kind of like he's a hybrid boxer wrestler. That's kind of how I would look at him. He's been around forever. He definitely
34 years old at 135 is scary though.
Yeah, I mean he's getting up there, but again, he's been around for a while, and we know what he's going to do. He's well-rounded American wrestler who developed some boxing skills, right? He's got real wins against real opponents, and his losses have come against the better opponents that he's faced. Okay, no, nothing wrong with losing to Douglas Silva de Andrade. That dude's a beast, right? Merab Dawashvili, Nurmagomedov, like his losses have come against opponents who are pretty good. So I don't think Stamann is a scrub. I think he's a good fighter. But when he stepped up, he just hasn't quite had enough to get it done. He's got wins against Brian Kelleher, Brian Caraway. I mean, real wins at the Kelleher one's pretty good. Alex Perez. Back in the day, Brian Caraway, I got to go a long ways back. But he's run into a point in his career where they started giving him these elite opponents, and he just was taking L after L after L. Taylor Lapilus does have good takedown defense, decent power, but I don't understand.
He was taken down 5 times last time out.
By Basharat?
Yeah, and he got taken down twice against Cowlin Lauer and 3 times against Leandro Issa. Like the percentage is good, but people eventually get him down.
Yeah, he can be gotten down. And I don't know that Cody Stamann is actually an aggressive enough grappler to like take it to that level. It's part of what I don't like about Stamann is he kind of gives up a little too quick. But I already know who your kill shot's going to be because of this. Yeah, I agree with you. This is a weird line. I don't see any reason why I would pay up for Taylor Lapilus at all. Like I'm throwing that out. Not interested. Stamann, definitely interested. Better DraftKings play. Has a real shot to win this fight. Could do it with a little bit of grappling. And it just makes no sense at all to pay up for Lapilus. He's done nothing in his career, and there's nothing in the numbers here that suggest he's going to score well enough at 8,900. Again, his best win ever, Oka Sasaki, 104, but he's got wins where he scored 60, 65, terrible. So he's just not active enough. Doesn't do anything that scores well on DraftKings. And if he doesn't knock you out in the first round, it's just not going to happen.
Yep, agreed. I'm on Stamann because I think Lapilus can be gotten down. Stamann can do it all, just like you said. And regardless, Lapilus, for the reasons you mentioned, just not in play for me in DFS. So
no volume either. Like, under 4 strikes per minute. I don't. It's a bizarre one. Why is he this favored? Again, I might take a bet on Stamann here
because for that Stamann reason. Is old, and he hung in there against Farid Basharat.
You know who else is old though? Taylor Lapilus.
He's not young. You're right. Ooh, I didn't realize this. 8.5 inch reach.
Really, that's not real. Come on, man. You're not 5'6" and you have that reach. Please.
It'd be interesting.
I know people who are 5'6" don't have no 73-inch reach. Fake news right there.
You know, this is fake news. This entire first fucking fight. This is the kind of fight. This annoys me because it's the kind of fight that I don't want to pay attention to, and I feel like if I don't, is going to determine the whole fucking slate. All right. Pooja Tomar, who's from India. We got women's strawweights here. She's a plus 200 underdog, taking on Rayanne Dos Santos or Rayanne Amanda. You'll see her listed both ways. Minus 240. Your salaries are Rayanne is 9,100. Tomar is 7,100. Fight ends inside the distance. Actually, fight goes to decision. Sorry, fight goes to decision. It's minus 145. And when I watch tape, Pooja is terrible. She's fucking awful. And Rayanne is not good either. But Rayanne was, has got, split decision against Talita Allen Carl. That was a gross fight. And that was her first UFC fight. And then she's Invicta. Like, this fight, I don't know why it's in the UFC. This is a weird fight. I don't like it. I think Rayanne's better. But it's low level. If Pooja wins, am I going to be stunned? No. If Rayanne scores 120, am I going to be stunned? No. This fight sucks. This is the super high variance fight on a 14 fight card. Makes me crazy. That being said, I am still going to be underweight on it and just hope I don't get burned by the high variance of it, because more likely than not, Rayanne wins and doesn't score great. That's usually what happens. Yeah. The outlier outcomes are out there, but I think, like I said, usually this is a Rayanne decision.
I mean, I'll give it, at least DraftKings priced up Rayanne enough to make it not really worry too much. Like, right. You could just fade it at 9,100 and just kind of hope that she doesn't outscore all these other studs at 8,900 through 9,500. And as long as she just wins with an just okay score, it's fine. I don't understand. I agree with you. Like, who the hell are these two? Pooja? Are you serious? Like, what the hell have either one of these gals done to deserve a spot on the card of the UFC? Should be a little bit more discerning about who they sign. Get a little bit more than nothing. Like a couple of Invicta wins and Rayanne is in the UFC. And then you've got Pooja, who I just think is here because, quite honestly, the Indian market is big, and they keep trying to find an Indian fighter
like Arjan Bular.
Yeah. Every one of them has been the same. Have been absolutely terrible as soon as they've hit the UFC, because listen, that country's just not up to standard yet. I think they're better off probably finding an Indian fighter who's like American but Indian. That would be appealing. Yeah. She's also really small. I mean, Pooja is 5'1". She's 30. There's nothing good about this situation at all. Her terribleness might actually allow this terrible Rayanne to score well in a fight just because. But I think they're both garbage, and prove me wrong. I'm not paying up 9,100. I don't think as of Tuesday, as we're saying, I don't see really paying up for Amanda. Rayanne, and I don't really see much upside for Pooja either.
Yeah, it's a weird all around. All right.
The UFC though is looking for an Indian fighter to sort of
absolutely.
Yeah, they want
desperately.
Yeah, that's why you see like these horrible sort of really, really unqualified fighter. They put you in the UFC and they just hope you win. But this one's tough.
Absolutely. All right, let's go back full screen. We got to talk kill shots for UFC Louisville. Killshot is an underowned, typically underdog type fighter. So no main event fighter. Not somebody who's going to be super chalky. Who's going to help win us a GPP? For me, Geek alluded to it earlier. I am on Cody Stamen. Stamen's my dog of the week. I think the line is disrespectful, as we discussed, and he will be my kill shot. I will say, and hopefully I don't steal your thunder and you can take it. My honorable mention that I almost took, and I want to mention it because I didn't even pick him straight up, is Charles Radtke's in that range that I mentioned. Like, he could win a GPP in a high variance fight. So he's my honorable mention kill shot.
Yeah, I was going to go with Radtke there as well. As just like an acceptable underdog that could win against an opponent that everybody likes. But I'm not going to go with that one. I'm going to give you a different kill shot. Dom Reyes comes back from the dead.
Steroids.
Vitamins, new vitamins in the system. back to the old Dom Reyes version. I think that version beats Dustin Jacobe. Now, we're asking a lot for him to get back on the vitamins, but no one's testing, no one's looking. But I don't understand. Like, is this being talked about more that getting rid of USADA means every single one of these fighters is probably on the juice right now?
I think we all kind of know and accept it and don't care.
We don't care?
I don't give a shit.
Would you be stupid? Like, if you were a fighter, are you an idiot if you're not taking steroids?
I don't know. I'd call you an idiot. There's a lot of health risks, and like it just kind of depends. It's risk versus reward. It's your career.
Dudes are roiding up just to look ripped at the beach.
Yeah.
They don't even make money off of it.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, I probably would. Sorry, I would.
I definitely would. 100%.
But
if I was a UFC fighter, that's like, as a DFS player, if I could take a drug to make my brain like 50% stronger, I would win all the contests.
It's one of those. I don't think I have enough information, like knowledge, to speak about it intelligently. I would think that yes, I would take them, but I don't.
Definitely would.
I don't know for sure.
I would take them. If I was a baseball player, I'd be fucking roiding up like crazy. If I'm a fighter, more. It's so much better. It's so much more helpful if you're a fighter. Like, it turns you into a Superman. Like, yeah, I'd be fucking roiding up. Like, every single one of these fighters is probably taking the roid. Like, unless there's, is there any other testing? Is there anything that blocks you from just getting crazy on the roid?
I think the UFC has the testing program, but I think it's a joke.
Is it? Is that what's going on? Like,
I think I honestly don't know enough about it.
I feel like people make jokes about it, but it's not discussed enough. Like how pivotal it is that you can now just roid up. Who wouldn't do it if you're allowed to?
Yeah, I totally would. Totally. All right, guys. 14 fights for UFC Louisville, all broken down nice and neat. If you didn't already, hit the like button. We had a big DFS Army win last week for UFC 302, taking down the GPP. Sign up at the links down below. Use all the promo codes. I think I post them all. If not, Sniper gets you 10% off VIP or MMA membership. You get everything, props, baseballs going, tons of shit in there. So make sure you go and check that out. Geek, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, that's going to be it. I'm looking forward to this card. Load up on Marquez.
There you go. There you guys have it. Good luck. We'll see you next time.